Hi, welcome to this video. This week I would like to talk about, basically I would like to upgrade a little bit on what I was talking about last week when I was reading Dr. Joe Dispenza's material on how our experience triggers our emotions and our actions and how it all gets, in a cycle. And by the time we're 35, we're pretty much our robots. Our bodies become our subconscious mind, and we do the actions, then we trigger the same emotions and the same experience, and then the same, chemistry is produced in our bodies, and this begins a loop of our life. And this is how we get stuck in the same patterns and we keep on repeating them. I've been talking a lot about the changes that we make in our lives, and in the last couple of videos, this is foundations I'd like to build on, and then we're gonna go a little bit deeper in the upcoming videos that I will be making. So this was a really interesting and a deep, profound information for me that Dispenza is talking about how we all become robots eventually. And I'm pretty sure if you've read some of his work, or if you just observed your life in general, you notice that you react the same way to some people, and that triggers the same emotions and the same reactions, and it's pretty much a loop all over again. But I would like to upgrade on that from the last week by talking about the thoughts that I've been having and the more research that I've done into this matter and the contemplation that has happened. I hope you did some too. It's no matter how hard we try to change things, even if we do change them, we're still going to get in a loop. And here's a new idea that I've got across this week, and I was thinking about that a little bit as well, to upgrade that. No matter how many times we change or how many times we upgrade ourselves, there's always be more to fix in our heads or more to change in our heads. And how do you tackle that? Because if you look at the people who have achieved a lot of things in life, they still make suicides at the end. They achieved their millions, and then they thought, okay, this is it, there is no more meaning in life after that. But what's really interesting to notice or to incorporate in that, or what I've been doing or thinking recently about, is this idea that we everything happens in cycles. So you will be in a period of life where you will be in a rut, where you're going to be down in the dumpster, and then if you're smart, you will use that time for you to contemplate, to integrate what you've learned. Because always when you come to that point where you're down low in your life, or you feel depressed, or whatever negative things are happening, it usually happens after a high. So if we come from high to low, then we have to come up again. So I've been thinking and dealing with these cycles of life a lot on all areas. If you read the history, you will see it repeats itself. It's a cycle thing. If you look at the monetary or financial area in our environment, it goes up, and then we have a recession or whatever, and it goes down. It's the same with emotions. It's the same with ghosts. It's the cycle of life is like that. This is how the things have been made, and they've been made that way for a very good reason. And it's really profound when you start thinking about it. So this new notion that I would like to upgrade from last week's thinking and reading about Joe Dispenza's work, which I've already mentioned, I encourage you to go read if you haven't read much, is that notion of cycles and that they are necessary. There is no thing that's always on the high. There is no human being you've met in your life that's been blissful from birth to death. And this is how it should be, because there is no good without evil, and vice versa. So if you think about it very deeply and profoundly, you'll see that everything that we encounter in life, even on our own lives, the changes that we try to make, the world, the history, everything runs in cycles. And it's good, because those cycles teach us things and help us to understand which part of life we're in at the moment. So if you're in a rut, if you use that time to integrate, to learn, to introspect, to take time to assess things that you've been doing in the past, this will conjure up, or you will come up with an idea sooner or later how to get out of that. And then out of that becomes, you start to be passionate about new ideas that come into your life, and then you start working hard and you start to integrate or incorporate new people and new experiences into your life. And this is how you get back onto the top in life. And when you're on top, there's another pitfall or thing that you need to be aware of. We obviously always want to stay on top as long as we can, but nothing has been on top forever. Everything has its up and down, plus and minus, good or bad, and everything like that. These are interesting dualities that we made up for our lives to have some kind of meaning, or it helps us to live properly in general. And if we're able to understand that when we're down, there are certain things that we need to do, and when we're up, there are certain things that we need to do and come to understand, we've gained a lot in terms of understanding how the whole thing of life is working. What's really interesting when you think about it, all the social media, everything we encounter most of the time is how people are enjoying themselves, especially social media. But nobody ever shows when they're downstairs. And we've created in our society this uh, not real perception of how things should work, because in social media everything is perfect. If you look at Facebook feeds, everything is rock and roll most of the time. Instagram is the same thing. Wherever you look, everything on the surface looks perfect, fine. And this is something that is really holding us down when we are feeling down, to understand that this is something that's part of life, and it will be there, and it's necessary that it is there. We just need to make the best out of that. And same goes for when we're on the top. So this is something that's really worth thinking about, because we've created this interesting facade of everything is all right, when it's a fact of life that everything has its cycles. It goes up and it goes down. It's created and it's destroyed. It's made and it's, destroyed. It's life and it's death. I've already mentioned that. So it's a really interesting thing to think about. And I'd like to encourage you to think about that very deeply, or as deep as you can go, to understand that everything that happens has its reason and place. But if we use our higher faculties which were given to us, it's really extraordinary. The contemplation, the meditation, the visualization, and all these kind of techniques and methods that we have nowadays that can help us assess the the place that we're in at that moment. Let that be down in the dumpster, somewhere in the middle where we're rising, or on the top of our game. Each of these stages has its place and it's mandatory. So I've been thinking about this last week, and it's really interesting when we look at the society, how it runs, or how those facades that we're usually, encountering on Facebook, and when we talk with people, everything is pretty much perfect most of the time. For majority of the people, I'm saying, not there are differences, of course, but majority is run on this, everything has to be perfect all the time. But that's not the case. This is not what life is about. And yeah, I hope I've given you something to chew on this week, because it's really deep stuff when you start thinking about this, how deep this thing goes. And no matter how deep you delve, or how much you contemplate or meditate, there's always more to it. And the bigger the picture you get, and the bigger the understanding you get about life, by going internally and educating yourself, and getting the bigger picture of life, the more profound it gets. And this is something I'm passionate about, and I hope you are too. And I hope I've encouraged you at least a little bit to think about this these notions of dumpsters, where we're down, where we're rising, and when we're on the top, and how we get in circles in life, and what do they serve, what kind of purpose do they serve. So this is it for this week, and I'll see you next week.